My father, we were coming here for years, ever since the early 50s. And he would see the baskets on the boat. You know, the ladies from Sconset and stuff would have the Reyes baskets. And it always fascinated him. And when they bought a house down here out in Nantucket, they met Paul Whidden, who interviewed Reyes. And Paul Whidden wrote that book right there that says Friendship Baskets. And he hung around with Paul, and he saw how Paul hung around with Reyes, and he saw how Reyes was making baskets. You know, he saw all the secrets. I think the biggest secret, how many people make baskets here? Well, you all know what I think is the biggest secret, is the groove around the bottom where all the ribs go into. You know, you don't really realize it's there. So he watched Reyes make baskets, and he wrote this book. He got, I think you sell it, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to look at. And his price, he's got a price list in the back, which is like $40 or something it's incredible. But he saw the basics, and he went and he showed my father, or told my father, the basics, and my father started playing around with it. He was a machinist, so he knew how to run a lathe. So he, obviously, the easiest mold to make is the round mold. And then he could make round bottoms and so on and so forth. Then he started playing around with making ovals, and he basically taught himself how to make baskets. So our baskets are a little bit, you know, I guess everybody's a little bit different, really. But he came up with a few ideas in his shapes. This is probably the first shape he came up with, which is a fairly standard 8-inch oval. And my ribbing here is fresh white oak, and also on the top, and this is white oak too. He used to go, and I still do, we go out and cut down a tree out back, a white oak tree. And what we don't use, we use the bottom 33 inches, and what we don't use, we freeze. And that's to keep it fresh, moist, pliable. It's like your peas or your corn, bird's eye. So I graduated from college in '68. So if you do the math, I'm 73. Went to work for General Electric. And in my spare time, I finished a basket that my father had started for a former sister-in-law of mine. And then I started into it. I started making baskets. So probably the first year, I made maybe 4 or 5 and brought them down, sold them, took the money, and put it in the Pacific National Bank. Next year, I probably showed up with 8 or 10, took the money, put it into the Pacific National Bank. And I was selling the baskets to the Seven Seas or, you know, there was a bunch of different gift shops, but they were the primary ones. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and then the oil embargo hit. And a lot of people here remember the oil embargo, I'm sure. And I lost my job at General Electric. But I came down here with probably 15 baskets at that stage, and I was selling them, and I went to Mary Woodrum. I don't know if anybody, you remember Mary. Yeah. I went to her shop, and she said, I'm not interested in buying any, but would you like to sublet some space from me for next year? So I was on unemployment for that whole year, and I made inventory, and then I went down and I started selling my baskets. And that just kept on doing it. So, and then when I got married, all that money that I had put into the bank from my part-time hobby baskets was up there. I had $14,000 up there. And my wife and I, when we first got married, came down here. We got married in December, I had to think. And we came down in March and bought a house out in Nantucket. And that money was where it went to. So it was kind of cool. So then the next summer I was in business, and I made more money than I made at GE, and then it just kept going. I used to drive. It was funny when I would go to unemployment, I'd drive along thinking to myself, oh, if I could only make and sell a basket a month. Now I get, after that first year, I had more work than I could really handle. So my daydreams of making and selling a basket, turned into a nightmare almost. So then I was with Mary for probably 20 years, and then they needed that shop for another function in NIR, and I moved down and got my own shop down at 9 Old South. So, but through the years, I've made a bunch of different baskets, bunch of different shapes. It's always fun to make a basket that is unusual, and it's interesting to look around here at all the unusual ones. There's quite a collection, and but I haven't got time to make that type of stuff. I make the stuff that I hope will sell. So should we go? I don't know where we're going from here. Any questions or?
You can open up the floor.
Do you still make nests?
Yep. I make 10.
How long does it take you to make a nest? And how many baskets are in a nest?
Well, I can make 10. Well, it can be any number you want. I consider 2 baskets that fit and have the proper proportions a nest. 3 is probably a better nest,
Yeah.
But I make 10, and when I look at a nest, people may argue it. I think there's 2 ways of setting up a nest. You either make it so that all the rims are the same height and the handles are rainbowed. But what happens is when all the rims are the same height, the control either becomes the middle basket or the outer basket. For example, for instance, you've got 10 pieces of wood piled up basically, which are the bottoms. So you've got about 5 inches of height right in the bottoms. Do you follow me?
Yes.
So if the middle basket, if you want that in proportion, like this, then the outer basket would be shallow. I like to make the outer basket a little bit more in proportion and then have a long, narrow, I think it's about an inch and a half diameter basket in the middle. The other way you can do it is you can, instead of having them flat, you can have them go like this, and all the baskets would be in proportion. You lose probably the inner baskets, you'd lose the rainbow effect of the handles. I had a customer once that bought 2 nests, and they had a house up, whose house was it? Oh. Well, it was up there anyways, where the bluff goes up right down here. And there were beams in their kitchen, and they had one nest along the beams and the other nest with the rainbow. So, but that's a nest is a lot of work. It's a lot of material.
I have a nest of yours.
Oh, you do? Well,
I do.
you're lucky.
And I am. You're lucky. I was told to go in and see you, and you would give me a card and write the price on it and tell me roughly how long it would be. It would be years. I would not get it next year. And you told me maybe 3 to 5 years, something like that. And this would have been in the late 80s, early 90s,
Mm-hmm.
probably early 90s. And actually what happened is in the early 90s, maybe 91, 92, I got a phone call from you, and it had only taken about 3 years.
Yeah.
But what happened is people who were, so it was probably April 1st, I want to say.
Yeah, April Fools, right? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't April Fool's, but what happened is you said that you called a couple people who were ahead of me on the list, and they couldn't buy the nest because they had to pay their income tax.
Timing.
You wanted to check because you had to pay your
Yeah.
And so it was like, if you can buy this, if you can
Yeah.
pay for it now. So we got moved up on the list.
Yeah.
It was a good thing. And it's a great looking nest, and it is the way you described
Yep.
it first. And I
9,
think it's.
a 9,
I think it's 8.
8. Yeah, I
It's a beautiful.
the first molds were, I think it was an 8, and then I made a smaller one in the middle and a bigger one on the outside.
Okay, so,
And-
okay.
Yeah,
Go from 8 to 10,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Smaller and larger. Yeah. It's and every once in a while, or when I used to have a nest in the shop, it'd be interesting because everybody would come in and they'd pick out the little teeniest basket and look at it, put it back in. And people were kind of fascinated by that. I had a collector who had a couple of nests. They were different nests. They were a tray nest, I called it. They were, it was probably the 11, 9, 8, possibly a 12. And they had the little handles and they all went and they were set up the way I told you. That was nice. I came into the shop. I don't think it lasted, on the resale, I don't think it lasted a week. It was come and gone. And I made an oval nest, which I had one of those come in, and that sold very quickly too on a resale. I've got customers now, after 45 years in business, I've got customers now that, they're older or they've passed away, and the kids, it doesn't mean that much to the kids, and they give you a call, and, but it's interesting. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a couple nests this year, or at least one.
It's a great one.
Yeah. It's a lot of, you sit there and you fuss over it, and there's fits, the handles have got to be right, the knobs have got to be right, because it's very limited margins in between the baskets. It's very nice.
Jerry, what's your best seller?
8-inch.
Okay.
But this year, the kidney has been, I think I've sold more kidneys than anything.
The long strap or short strap?
Long.
Yeah.
I should have brought a kidney, I'm sorry. I have 3 sizes of kidneys. They're 7, 8, and 9, and they,
Right.
a lot of, Jenny has one. That's,
Mine doesn't have a lid, it's just open.
that, when the kidneys, behind you, Jenny.
Sorry.
Show her
Yeah.
when kidneys first came out around, the Glen Ann mess many years ago, when she decided that she invented them and wanted to get the patent on them. Anyways, most people were just doing an oval and just putting a little indentation. And when I decided to do it, my parameters were I wanted as much bow as possible, and I didn't want it to stick out all that much from the hip. And to get the capacity that you needed vertically rather than lengthwise. And so they've been very popular this year, as a matter of fact.
Do you make your own mold?
Yep. Most of these, like this, I'm using my father's molds.
Yeah.
This one is, I made this mold. It's a simple mold.
Do you make your handles and the bases and all that?
Yep, everything.
Incredible.
I wanted to, I grabbed Priscilla's basket because this is a very unusual basket. I've got a basket over there that's jade topped. And when there was the potential of ivory disappearing, we thought, so they created an ivory embargo, probably early 80s, and we heard about it. And my father was anxious to get a substitute top material for baskets. My brother-in-law had been stationed in Taiwan during the Vietnam War. And he had an in with a guy, with jade manufacturers out there. And my father, and he came up with the idea of getting jade tops. Well, little did we know that there was a minimum order. We ended up with like 300 jade tops.
Oh my gosh.
It was brutal, and they're heavy too. They're nice. It makes a very nice double handle basket, but if it's single handle, it really doesn't work all that well. But then it got my father thinking about other stones. And there was a neighbor down the way that had a father-in-law that was a lapidary. And one of the stones he came up with, this is scenic jasper.
So pretty.
And it's just gorgeous. And it's a beautiful size. And Priscilla stole it. She was at the, well, you were over here, right? At the auction. Nobody really knew what it was.
Nobody knew who it was.
How much?
They didn't know who was buying.
Oh. How much was it?
And it's written inside.
Yeah, mine. I always sign on the inside so it doesn't wear off.
Yeah, it's cross-read.
Yeah, yeah. G.L. Brown, Crossroad Jr., Washington, Nantucket. What'd you pay for it? Just between us, 200.
Oh my goodness.
And that's, I never made another one. So that,
And I brought it to you, you knew exactly what it was.
yeah. Yeah. And this one's got all kinds of money in it too, because I took it right out of her hand.
Yeah, 8 bucks. She saved a lot of money. And that's before you had a premium. Now he's 22%.
But a couple other baskets I wanted to show you are. I always had an idea in the back of my mind of making baskets with famous wood. And we were at Anguilla one year, and there was a guy that was a publicist. Was a publicist? He was promoting the Old Ironsides Museum, and he was saying how if you gave like $500, you got a piece of paper with a couple splinters of Old Ironsides wood in it. And if you gave $1,000, you got bigger pieces of wood in the paper. And then at $5,000, it was a plank. So I said to him, how would you like to get Nantucket baskets with, you could, if somebody gave $100,000 and give them a basket. Loved the idea. So he sent us out some wood. And he also sent us copper from the hull of Old Ironsides. So we made them a couple of open baskets. I did this type of thing. This is the wood from Old Ironsides. I took a piece of wood like this, did a half a tooth with scrimshaw of the Old Ironsides, and my father did a copper plaque to put underneath it. And we made about 5 or 6 different examples. We got paid for them, and then they disappeared. And I don't know where they went to. But we had extra wood, extra copper. I still have a lot of copper. And I made this for my mother-in-law, and that's Old Ironsides. And it's fairly unspectacular wood, but it's oak. And I did the scrimshaw, which is faded. And then I got the idea, because of that idea, I was in the shop one summer, and the people that run the Mystic Seaport Museum stores came through. And they were talking to me I found out what they were doing. And they said to me, I said to them, how would you like to have baskets made out of the wood from Charles W. Morgan? So they thought about it and they go, yeah. So for about 6 or 7 years, I would get, this is wood from the Charles W. Morgan. It's a whaling ship. They didn't use good wood, they used pine. And this is Charles W. Morgan wood. My father engraved the bottom and we numbered them. This was number 122, and I just signed it lightly, and this was here last year, I guess. Yeah. And I used to get orders for maybe 6 scrimshaw plaques and 4 or 5 half hulls that my father would make. And I was telling a guy yesterday how I used to take 6 of these plaques, and I'm not a great artist, I'm a copier. And I'd lay out the 6 plaques and I'd start line, 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 line. And then I do figure out another line and go, just keep on going like that. And it it's not a bad scrimshaw.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. I like it.
But that was kind of an interesting project. This is Jenny's first basket. This scrimshaw was done by Linda D'Amico, who was Larry Vanneau's girlfriend, and everybody knows Michael Vanneau up on Center Street. And this is this is yours, right? Not a very attractive, it's more of a donkey unicorn than.
When my dad made that basket for me for Christmas, and I must have been about 5 or 6, and he had my younger sister and I come downstairs, and he had that basket and the same kind of basket but with a carved seahorse on the top. And my dad said, a man ordered these for his daughters for their Christmas presents, and they're about your size, so I want to see how long I should make the straps. And I remember seeing that unicorn basket and loving it and thinking, oh, that little girl is so lucky to get this basket. And then on Christmas morning, I opened up a present, and the basket was for me. And then the other basket with the seahorse was for my sister.
And to carry on the tradition, this is for my oldest granddaughter. I've got, of course, ivory bottom. And we also go, as I said, we were on Anguilla. This is Anguilla, and you can't see it, but there's a little red dot right up here. That's where my daughter told me that she was pregnant. So. And, this is Jenny's from graduation present from college. That crab, if I had 1,000 of them, I could probably sell 1,000. This is the most popular carving. It's fossil walrus. I don't know what it was buried next to, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful basket. Carving.
Is that a 6-inch round?
7, I think. And then I just brought this because it's big, and I could put stuff in it. And then you all saw the mermaid. So, anybody got any questions about making it?
There's one there that looks like, yeah.
Oh, good point. My nephew, who was working for me in the shop selling, one year when I first made this, he was in college, and he always merchandised this basket as you go to the beach and put, a tall beer in it. So
That'll work.
It's funny how things have changed over the years. Initially, the wallet was the control of the size of the basket made. But now you've got wallets, you've got cell phones, hairbrushes were a big thing. You got hairbrush, all those things have come along. So what do you leave home?
I just want to say one thing, Jerry. My first basket from you was that.
What's this?
basket.
Yes.
And I would be walking down Main Street or Sugar Street. Everybody would stop me because it was so beautiful. I had my initials on the top.
Yep.
And the bottom was ivory. And then one day, I'm at my house, and I get a call from some young girl saying she'd like to come and see my basket. So I'm in my living room, she came. She said, can I borrow it for an hour? Whoa.
Oh.
So she did, and took it to Terry Sylvia.
Ah.
And one of my friends was taking a course with Terry. So now they all have it. I have the original. But I did tell Beth Baisley, who we both work for Charlton or whatever, but Beth was there. I said, Beth, you know what? Just go down to Jerry Brown's and make sure you order the same basket that I have. And she did. And to this day, every time I say, thank God you took me to do that. Because she was in her 20s and going to law school, she could care less. But, So that was some story. And then it made the New York Times. Was it the Wall Street Journal or something? Because there was a thing about it. Remember that? There was some.
About the baskets in general?
Yeah, something about the Wall Street Journal. I think it was the Wall Street Journal.
Was it about the patent or?
I think it was copying it.
Well, they had. I can't remember. I know there was a stink about Glen Ann trying to get the kidney basket patent.
But this was about that one too.
Oh.
Anyway, but it's my favorite, and I would have brought it those back in New Canaan, someplace.
But anybody got any questions about making a basket? Any secrets? I've made a few. None?
How long did it take you to make a basket? Like the tall basket?
This?
Yeah.
They're about 25 to 30 hours, and I spread them out over a week. Back to your question, it'd take me about a month to make a nest now. Yeah. Back then it was a little bit different. I had hungry kids, so I worked a little harder. But yeah, it's about 25, 30 hours spread out over the week.
And do your hands cramp up or anything? Or no?
This thumb lately has been a little sore. But I use, anybody that's been in the shop, you know that I use sticks to weave with. I don't use my fingernails. Most people who weave here, do you use your fingernails? Anybody?
Sometimes I put a piece of a stave on it.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yep.
Yeah.
Push it down.
Your nails get sore.
Well, they rip
And
apart.
Yeah, I know, they break also.
Yeah. Before Christmas some years when I was using my nails, I'd start out with these two and then I'd go to these two. And then it would just be this one going. So. Any other questions?
What kind of wood is your go-to wood?
For the top? For the top?
Yeah. Or
I get new favorite woods, and I love a black walnut, a nice piece of fiery black walnut, like French walnut or Claro, beautiful, beautiful woods. The other is Molly's. I went to the Woodcraft Supply or Woodworkers. No, it was Woodcraft Supply.
yeah, where do you go?
That's where I go. They have wood. Rockwell has some nice woods too, and they had some little square pieces, about 3/4, that had just fiery pieces, curls and stuff going out of the black walnut. And lately they've had a wood called Molly, and it's red Molly and brown Molly, and
That's pretty.
that's a red Molly. If you want to hand that around and show people, that's a red Molly.
Very nice.
I haven't made a basket yet with the brown molly. I'm looking forward to it. But that type of place is the best.
What do you use like for carvings? Are you using other materials now?
Carving, I'm still using ivory as long as I can use it.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Do people ask to have something that's not ivory?
yeah, I've had people, but well, a lot of my carvings right now come from Malaysia. You know, they get the representative for the mastodon carvings comes in, and the fossil walrus comes in. So I'm using that, but I don't. Theoretically, it's gonna. They'll decide next year whether we're gonna have ivory continued. All my ivory is pre-embargo, and I'm talking way back, 80s. So, but it'll be different. I'm anticipating if they don't include Mastodon into the mix. That's one thing. I don't want to use Mastodon. Anybody that has used Mastodon around knows it stinks. It's absolutely awful stuff. But I anticipate like deer or moose horn or bone, you know, or ebony. That's about the three things. I don't like plastic all that much.
So what's going to happen to the value versus the,
Well, there isn't
if ivory is?
per se. Well, the resale value of a purse is going to, because no, it's not going to go up, unfortunately, because you can't resell it. You won't be able to theoretically. But I've never heard of anybody getting arrested for trying to sell a lightship basket. You know, and a lot of people, if you Google them and see them online for sale, they usually say bone, describe it as bone.
They say what?
They call it bone rather than ivory.
Well, that's false advertising.
Um,
So it's going to, the value is going down then?
Well, theoretically, you know, if you've got any ivory on an item, and if the law says in Massachusetts you can't sell anything with ivory, then you know you can't sell your piano.
Oh, right.
Or
Yeah.
Antique instruments is a big thing, and also
Yeah.
you know just various antiquities. So it's bigger than just you know baskets and other maritime scraps.
I once saw on Roadshow where they had a beautiful original Revere teapot, a beautiful thing, and it had a couple of ivory washers on the handle, and they had to cut them off
Oh, my.
in order to legally resell them.
I have a question.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm not from around here, Virginia. Could you tell me, like, what is the average price, or you know, I mean, what's
This size, the 8-inch size, is $825 for the basic basket with no ivory on it, and then whatever you pick. Yes, I ultimately became an order situation shop, and the first year I came down, I had an inventory, but I kept getting orders, so that I went to an order situation. So I have samples of everything, but you know, I don't sell an awful lot of baskets over the counter. If things go, if the over the counter business, you know, people aren't willing to wait, then I may, you know, I can always go back to over the counter, make an inventory one year and continue selling, I hope.
so then how do you market?
People just come in the shop.
But, okay, so you're,
I make enough, I meet enough people in the shop
okay.
and take enough orders to last a year anyways. I'm still working on last year's baskets.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have
Thank you.
Someone in the wings that's gonna?
Maybe her.
Oh, great, great. And I wish I had more time for basket making.
She's just a lowly curator. She
There's
is,
no such thing.
I don't know who knows, but Harvard has a fabulous collection of glass flowers made by the,
Oh, fabulous.
she's in charge of them.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So great.
It is remarkable.
Kids love them. I was a school teacher in Newton and we took our fourth graders there every year.
Yeah.
Every year. They just adored it.
When I was a kid, my father, who was a product of the Depression, took us as a family to like 3 things. Took us out to dinner once, took us to a movie once, a Jacques Cousteau movie or something. And he took us in to see the glass flowers. And I remember going in and walking around, because nobody has ever been able to replicate what they did. And it's just amazing stuff.
Why is it you don't like working with a mastodon? Does it crumble?
Oh, no, it smells. So it's very, very nasty smelling. When you get a carving that's been carved in mastodon, it has been polished, and the polish is kind of sealed in the smell, but you can still, if you put it up to your nose and smell, you can still get a whiff of the mastodon. But ivory smells like when you're in the dentist chair and he's drilling and you're numb, and all of a sudden you get a whiff of. That's what elephant ivory smells like, which is bad, but it isn't like this. It's been buried for tens of thousands of years, and it's just vile stuff. But it has to be dried for about 5 years, and it cracks. The different layers crack and so on. So it's getting very expensive. Initially, when Reyes was making baskets, and they used, he was looking for ornamentation. Whale's teeth down here, there used to be barrels full of whale's teeth for $1. And elephant ivory was, $10 a pound. So these guys could go and buy a whale's tooth for.
There's some behind you.
Oh yeah, those are small. But then it kind of flipped. The whale's teeth became more valuable, and you could get more product out of a big tusk than a bunch of different teeth. And now, I don't know where it's going, but something will come up. As Jenny says, it's the basket that is the selling point. It isn't the carving necessarily. And people will always do different interesting things, whether it's wood, out of wood, or whatever. So, well, are we running long? No. Any other questions?
I've been coming here off and on for quite a while, but I don't know a lot about the basket. Are there younger people really interested in professionally continuing the tradition?
I think the youngest right now, as a professional, is Michael Caine's son, I believe. But I don't think any of the major basket makers have got offspring that are, I've got a son. Jenny's one of 3 daughters, and my son, he works for somebody, gets a regular paycheck, gets a vacation, goes home at night and doesn't have to worry about stuff. My commute is nice. I go from upstairs into the cellar. At lunch, I go, but after dinner, I'll usually go downstairs and work, poke away at stuff. And so it's every day, but I can also take a day off whenever I want. So it's been interesting. So,
Part of what the museum is doing is we have kids classes.
yeah,
So
I meant to say that,
the kids how to make bracelets and how to make baskets, and hopefully cultivating the younger generation
Yeah.
to take over.
And it's interesting, bracelets were very hot like a year, 2 years ago, and they still are hot. But so many people are making them.
It's like all my friends.
Yeah. And then totes were very, very hot, you know, an open basket like that.
Right.
They were very hot, and they still are hot, but, you know, a lot of people are making their own. So it kind of goes in cycles. But a tote is, you know, tote's very nice stuff.
Do you change the cloth in there to match what you have on?
I don't. I just use this. I just use this scarf. I just use this scarf pretty much all the time. I just like it. My best friend sent it to me, and it tends to work with most of my outfits.
Very clever.
I make reversible liners for my dad's baskets, but
Yep.
I haven't made one for myself. So exactly.
No. Any other questions?
So who's coming to spot, like, or is it younger generation that's ordering a basket? Or
It's across. It's across. I think this year, I've seen more people carrying baskets than I have in a long time,
Nice.
which is good. And I've always said to you ladies, there should be some sort of program promoting, you know.
I've seen a lot of people.
I'm very surprised how many.
Traditional looking baskets.
Yeah. And there was 20 years ago, 50%, 60% of the women were carrying the baskets here.
Actually, it's funny, a friend of my mother's who lives in the Hamptons called them and said, Priscilla, they're all wearing your baskets around.
All in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
You know, she says they're all,
Maybe it'll find its way back up here.
it's just kind of funny.
Well, a cloth carry-on, like what she has, is you can put a lot more in and it doesn't weigh as much.
Yeah, but nobody's going to walk up to you and say, what a nice...
That's the work.
Have you been to Nantucket? No, I used to get stories. I once, when we were working nights in the shop, I used to get stories, well, during the day too, but it was mostly nights because there'd be couples coming in. And I had a couple come in and the woman said that she was on the subway in Paris. And she saw way down in the throng, she saw another passenger with a lightship basket. And she tried to get over to say hello to the woman and yik-yak about the basket, but she couldn't. So she raised her basket above her head and she yelled, Nantucket. And the woman looked around and raised up her basket and said, we Nantucket. So well, the reason he called them friendship baskets, Reyes called them friendship baskets, people come up and talk to you wherever you are if you're carrying your basket. You know, my father would always say, if you have a huge diamond ring, if you have a fancy watch, fabulous jewelry, whatever, carrying a lightship basket, well, somebody will come up. There was always a story about, you know, the lady would be unpacking her shopping cart at Walmart and put her basket on the thing, and she'd look up and the clerk would be looking for the barcode on the basket. So. Oh, somebody else had a question?
I just want to, you put cross-rip, and what's the story behind cross-rip?
Cross-rip Junior. My father signed his WB cross-rip, so I did G.L. Brown cross-rip Junior.
But why cross-rip?
For the old hands that used to come out of Woods Hole, the only lightship we would see is the cross-rip lightship that was in between Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And it was on the cross-rip shoals. The Nantucket lightship was way down on the Nantucket shoals. And the only way you'd see that is if you were on the Andrea Doria or something like that. So that's why my father used cross-rip as his, and my brother uses relief, because the relief lightship went out and sat on the Crossrip Shoal when the Crossrip Lightship went in to be re-provisioned. So. And it was, putting Junior on it was just,
That's great.
And when I make a basket, I'm crossing 3.
Oh, that's funny. Roman numeral?
Yeah, I do that.
That's great.
you know. Anyways,
Well, thank you.
well, thank you for all coming.